Hello everyone and welcome back to the Football Psych YouTube channel, where today I thought I'd mix up the introduction a bit. Normally I'm filming it from my bedroom, just like my videos are, but today I thought we'd try something different. So they're quite extensive behind me, kind of interesting, but if I just spin round, not sure if you recognise that at all. The London Stadium, the home of the mighty Hammers. Now today's video I'm joined by a very special guest in Kayleigh Jane Dougan, who is a sports psychologist at Luton Town. Shouldn't really be saying that around these parts. And we caught up on a Zoom call to talk all things sports psychology and more importantly football. So I do hope you enjoy. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and why not hit the notification bell so you don't miss an upload. It would be rude not to after all. I hope you enjoy. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Football Psych YouTube channel, where as you can see today I'm not on my own. I'm joined by a very special guest, Kayleigh Jane Dougan. Now I'll let Kayleigh introduce herself in just one moment, but before that I just wanted to run through the format of today's video. So it's going to be a podcast kind of theme, to be honest, with some Q&A elements in there, back and forth between me and Kayleigh, just finding out a bit about what she does, who she works with and her everyday responsibilities really. So that's enough of me talking for the moment. I'll let Kayleigh introduce herself.
Hi, my name's Kayleigh. I'm a sports psychologist over at Luton Town Football Club. I've got a very varied background, so I've worked with athletes from gymnastics to swimming, football, rugby. I've worked with many different disability sports as well, so I've got a very varied background within my sporting arena.
Yeah, so tapping into a lot of different sports, which is really interesting. So there's a lot to cover, and it's not just football. Although that's what we talk about on the channel, I think sports psychology is kind of universal. There's a lot of, even though there might be different sports and specifics, they kind of all overlap. So the first one really to kick off, how important is sports psychology in creating a successful athlete or a team?
I would say it's very fundamental, especially nowadays. It's the mental health of the players that needs to be taken care of. Football's not just played with the feet. It's a saying that's come about quite a bit, that football's not just played with the feet. You've got to master your own heads. And I'm finding, especially a lot with academy boys, it's getting harder and harder, especially with the current climate that we're in. However, it's fundamental in building a very well-rounded and very well-adapted footballer, whether they go into their career as a footballer or whether they unfortunately do not make it in the football world.
Well, that's an interesting point. Being so cutthroat the way football is, I guess it's really important to put them building blocks in place, even if they don't become a footballer, but they almost develop into young people really is the most important thing, probably before football. So that's a really interesting point. So that kind of leads on to, as a sports psychologist, it's kind of quite a new science in the grand scheme of sport. So have you encountered any resistance, especially maybe from some older players who kind of see it as a bit, they don't need to do that. I know how to play football, or I know how to carry out my sport. I don't need this sports psychology.
We're very much seen at the beginning as those people in white coats. I can see that even with younger players. It's the term psychologist. And I know a lot of the times they call us performance enhancers has come about. There's a lot of other terms that are now linking into that and taking away that psychology term. But actually one thing we've done pretty well at Luton is each boy has had an individual session with me. So we went for second years, first years, and then the 21s. What it was an introduction to meeting me. Okay, it's via Zoom at the moment, especially the current climate, but also to give them an introduction to sports psychology. And we found with that a lot of them went, I didn't realise that's what it was all about. I didn't realise I had someone to talk to. I didn't realise I had someone to rationalise my thoughts with. I didn't know how this affected my feet. So actually we've done that pretty well. But yes, I've met a lot of resistance, and it's mainly from older coaches, I would say. Especially the ex-professional older coaches, you would find that they would look, and they've never experienced sports psychologists. We're fairly new, as you said. And actually, I've encountered a couple, but once they see the development of the players and once the players start trusting you, you very much find that they start trusting you okay, this player obviously sees the benefit, so why don't we keep her on board? There's obviously something here. However, there is a lot of kind of pushback. You do have to kind of, how can I put it, establish yourself. And I have written an article on it actually, as I presented at the BASES conference, both student and national conference. And it was very much about me being a female going into a male-dominated world, but also introduction to sports psychology to this world and how I had to establish myself. And it was about getting in with key stakeholders. Once the players trust you, the coaches fall into kind of line as well. And once the coaches trust you, the players start looking over. So you do have to form those relationships, and it is a lot harder, say for yourself, than the sports scientist. It's quite easy to, or the fitness coaches, it's quite easy to see a difference. Mine, sometimes it's not that easy to notice the difference straight away. So there's a lot of kind of pushback at times. It's about linking into those key stakeholders and keep pushing and showing this is what I'm doing and this is the benefit. You do have to prove yourself probably a lot more than the other sports scientists, but it's part and parcel, and it is getting better. With the category 2s now in football, needing at least a part-time sports psychologist. That's actually now come down from 1 to 2 as well, so 2 and 1 need it. That obviously there is something there. And other teams are now starting to take note and starting to look. So it's getting there. The tide is turning, let's put it that way.
Yeah, it's really interesting to kind of hear that, it's because of the maybe new nature of it, and the old guard, and they just want to put their boots on and go play football, and that's great.
Yeah.
That's ultimately what it's down to, and them relationships with the fitness coaches and the analysis, maybe not so much, but more the kind of medical team, that's always been there since football started. But the psychology, unlocking more off the pitch and stuff, is harder to see. The results are not as visible all the time. You really do need to make sure them relationships are developed, and maybe if you crack if you crack the coaches, then you get access to the athletes and vice versa as well. So it's really interesting to hear that, actually. So talking more about football academies, like we just touched on, they're one of the most competitive settings across any line of work. How crucial is it to ensure players feel supported on and off the pitch?
Absolutely. It's probably, especially we can keep bringing it back with this current climate, they're very alone. I've had a lot of players complain that as soon as the training session's over, it's clean the balls, clean the goalposts, off you go home. There is no social element to football anymore. It's you're done, you're dusted, get off. No changing rooms. They're having to get changed in the stands at the moment, academy footballers. It's you're changed, go home. Sometimes I don't have a shower, it's go home. But it is a case of these are young people, and that's what we've got to remember in academies. They are young men and women, put it that way. They are coming through, and trying to think of why I put this. It's very important to establish them as individuals. Some of them are not going to make it. So it's very much building up that resilience and building up that dual career, having them think and reanalyze themselves, but also giving them the confidence to actually be able to say, this is what my problem is. So when they go into later on in life, it's there. They have all those tools, but also teaching them to establish relationships, how to establish relationships, what a real world looks like. So behave like this in football, because this is going to help you in the real world. When you go into that real world, you need these key skills. And young footballers, especially with the young guy at Manchester City, wasn't it? That recently, he committed suicide, and it was all to show the support. They need to have that supportive network. They are thrown into this world of you are now a footballer, and the term is you are a footballer. To their friends outside of football, they are a footballer. People inside of football know that actually they're not until they've made the first team. At this stage, it's very, very different. It's giving them those tools, and also mental health is so delicate and it can be broken very quickly. So we need to establish the tools, establish the groundwork very much. And I think at the foundation level, so they can then take it the right way up to pro if they make it. it needs to be established a lot younger than what it is at the moment. And it doesn't need to be called psychology in any way, shape or form. But they need to have those key skills of building relationships, having that resilience, having that ability to talk to their coach if something's not right, talk to their friends. And I've designed infographics, especially in the current climate, on reach out to other people now. This is what we need. Don't allow people to feel alone.
Well, like I said, now more than ever, it's so important. I think you're saying there about almost footballers being labelled, you know, the minute they walk through that academy at maybe 9 years old, you're a footballer. And like you said, you are in terms of how others perceive you from the outside, but in that world of football, until you step on the first team pitch and make your first team debut, are you really a footballer? But you get sheltered and treated so differently and almost not as a person. You are a commodity, you're a product, you know, you're the next big thing that could bring the club money. And at the end of the day, you're sold a dream. And less than 1% of the players that walk through the door will ever make it as a professional footballer. And you think we need to treat them as people first, and young people being in the important word, because when they do leave them academy doors for the last time and are not a footballer, they need to, like you said, they need to be able to step into the real world with skills and social skills and be able to talk to people and, you know, debate things and know what they want in life, instead of just, well, all I know is football, because it goes beyond that. And you can apply it to football, but it's important setting up them life skills initially, and then they can take them elsewhere.
Absolutely. And they are sold a dream. You're 100% correct. As soon as they sign that contract, it is the dream. And it is a dream for any young boy going through to sign that contract. It's just the hard work that goes with it that sometimes isn't really overly explained or understood. And when they're thrown into that world, it's very, very different. You are training at this point. Especially for teenagers, you're no longer a normal teenager, because you're not going out with your friends at weekends. You are playing football and you have a strict diet. You're not going partying. And I was explaining to my 21s yesterday, we had a group session and one of them said, oh, I have to leave Christmas Day to go up to my loan club. We're saying actually our first team are in on Christmas Day evening, and then they're going to Reading in a hotel that evening. And you go, well, actually your shelf life is quite short. If I'm going to put this very bluntly, for a footballer, anything over 30, you're doing well. You've kept your body well. Okay, there's exceptions of Ronaldo, etc. But you've got to look at and you go, make these sacrifices this side. If this is what you want, and you call them sacrifices, make them this side. Because actually when you start your life at 30 plus, you've got your full life ahead of you. And if this is what you want, follow this. This is all you need to do to keep your body in shape and your mind in shape.
The sacrifices, and ultimately is I did a video recently about young players coming to play in the UK, and been speaking to some of the boys at the West Ham Academy in the 23s, and they're saying, you know, the little lifestyle changes that are strange, but it's you are a footballer, and with that comes a lot of ties, we just said, but it's the sacrifices of, you know, you're living in London, great, but you're not allowed to go out club, or you can, but you're inhibiting your own career, and it's ultimately down to you. So it's great, you know, you're earning a lot of money and living in a fantastic place and working with people on a day-to-day basis that love your passion. You know, your work is your passion, but with that comes its limitations. You're not almost living life to the full, and then you get to 30, 35, and it's like, well, what do I do now? I've got, you know, it's almost kind of like starting your life at 18 again when you're 30, because it's kind of all them inhibitions and dreams and stuff you can actually kind of fulfill, I guess. Yeah,
absolutely. And so, you're still young when you turn 30.
Yeah, 30 is exactly. It's like a retirement age for football, and that's crazy. You've got so much of your life ahead of you. So, leading on to the next question, could you tell me a little more about the work you've done during the pandemic? So, am I right in saying you've offered support for people with mental health issues?
Yes. So, I've worked within the NHS responding team as well. So, coming away from sport, I've used those skills within that for people that are isolating, especially for vulnerable people, and because of my kind of connections working with people with disabilities, I've gone to the Responder Plus, so helping people with disabilities during this current pandemic. Sporting wise, it's worked one of two ways. I had an athlete that I'm working with, she's a snowboarder, and prior to the pandemic, don't know if I want to compete anymore. Okay, so we were working through that. The pandemic was seen as a forced stop. She was never going to give up. She's too competitive. But she said, I just don't know if I enjoy it anymore. The pandemic was a forced stop for her. She was starting to slip mental health wise. She's very, 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 very competitive. She has to be top at everything, and that includes her education. This forced stop meant she actually enjoyed her sport even more. She came back, and within a few weeks, she's going, I want to go back to training. I need to get back. I need to go back. And then I saw her when she was allowed back. So the end of lockdown, part 1. And she was a completely different person. It was the stop she needed. It was the break she needed. It was the mental health break she needed away from that routine. And I think people forget the routine that athletes get into in it. I do training on that day. I can't do this. I've got a competition on this weekend. I can't do this. That break was brilliant for her mental health, and it gave her time to concentrate on her education and concentrate on other aspects of her, of being her rather than her the athlete. But also, if we're linking it back to football mental health point of view, at the moment the biggest thing is not having fans. And it sounds very, very strange, but actually you've got no one booing you, you've got no one cheering for you. There is both sides. We've got to look at this. And I'm very strongly of the opinion that we need to look at this very quickly before full fans come in. I know there was kind of a false start at the beginning. We've had a few, mostly home fans in some of the clubs, so it was a lot easier if you're a home team. But I think mental health is going to deteriorate quite dramatically at that point when fans are allowed in, and all of a sudden they're giving you the opinion that you may not necessarily want to hear. The coaches all of a sudden are getting an opinion that's not written in the papers, so people are shouting at them. Also, and they're not very well liked, but what about the referees? People are forgetting. These referees have not had any bad words said to them. So a rendition of the referee. We're forgetting that. The referees we've got to work with them when fans come back in, that there's going to be a barrage of insults and a barrage of abuse going to be thrown at them. How prepared are our players? How prepared are our athletes for this? And we're also got to remember that if you're talking about mental health, these athletes, for example, the Olympics was meant to be this year. Athletes are trained for 4 years for this week of competitions, 2 weeks of competitions. That never happened. They're getting another year older. If it doesn't happen next year, when will it happen? Do we wait until the next one, or do we hold 2 in quick succession? These are all things that I'm sure in the background there's something going on. But I know for fans returning to the stadium, there's very little being looked at here. And the impact it's going to have on our players, the impact it's going to have on our athletes, that it's not going to be a fully supportive environment anymore when they step out onto the pitch.
I think a lot's kind of been talked about in terms of, the home advantage and blah, blah, blah. But like you just mentioned, you haven't received any abuse for like 6 months, or it might be even longer than that when we get capacity again.
Yeah. How
are they going to take it? They're performing, behind closed doors practically. And I don't think fans are going to take for granted again going to a football match. So they're going to be even louder, even more riled up. And you think, I think it's going to be really dangerous, and it's going to be a really delicate situation to handle. And I think the FA should look at it, and the PFA, because they're not going to know what to do. They played football for however long, and they're used to the fans being there, but that's taken away for a big period of time. And then they come back with more energy than ever. And with that, well, we know what comes with that. So are they going to be able to take it? Are they going to be able to process it? They're going to need a lot of support, and there's might even be looking at kind of specific roles, player liaison, I know it exists in sports psychologists, but how are you going to deal with that again? Because it's with that, all the headlines start generating, and it's how you're going to react, how you're going to react to that situation. And that's what will distinguish, an athlete that's in form or not in form, because some are probably relishing this opportunity.
Yes.
Not getting that stick every week, or some are probably really missing it because it keeps them on the edge. How many goals have we seen conceded in the Premier League, maybe because the fans aren't on their back and rising with the team in their moments. And I just think it's a really interesting thing that no one's really looking at, because it's going to be a massive factor.
Well, there is also the factor, and I'm sure you've got the same over where you are, that you've got academy boys that are making it into the first team. They've never experienced a full home or away advantage, like there with the crowd around you. That's going to be daunting enough. But has anyone looked at that and thinking, we've brought academy boys in that fans do attend their matches. Nothing like the first team. Nothing like having that. You make a mistake on your academy debut, it's massive. The fans are on you, regardless of how old you are. Have we looked at that? Is that an element that's just been left neglected, that these players are coming up with no key skills already there?
No, like you said, fans do attend academy games, but a couple of thousand if you're really lucky, and for a big game. So 50,000 people suddenly letting you know that your touch was awful. It's just stepping into that environment where this is uncharted waters, because we've not been here before. But it's really important we see it as a completely new, it is a new thing. We've never had anything like this before ever. But in sport, it's so important that if we don't manage it right or put things in place, it could really affect players long term. If they don't put them building blocks in place again for how to deal with, the negativity around their performance, then they might crumble and kind of never find that confidence again. So, talking a bit more about, the relationships and the conversations you'd have with players. So how important is goal setting, and what does embracing this process mean for performance?
I use goal setting in every single session. The reason being is I approach my sessions from a solution focused point of view. So for anyone who doesn't know, yes, there is an issue, there is a problem there. We look at ways of solving it rather than, I'm going to pick the scab and make you bleed. Let's look at ways, the only thing the player is interested in or the athlete is interested in is, I want to be better, not discussing the issues around it. So we look at ways of moving on away from that. And that involves a hell of a lot of goal setting. So you're here now, you want to be here, what steps do we need to take to get you there? I've done a lot of sessions on goal setting. It reaffirms team. So I do a lot of team goal setting, club goal setting. Therefore, they're all singing off the same hymn sheet. They're all reading off the same page. The club, the coaches, the players all know what's expected of them. It's kind of like a set of rules almost they set for themselves as well that they follow. But goal setting and performance, it gives that athlete that sense of autonomy. This is me. This is what I want. This is my goals. If I do this, this and this, I'm then here. Then we move on from here to professional. It guides them. I use it very much as a guide. You know what you need to do. And that's exactly how I end the sessions. You know what you need to do. You know what the club's expecting of you. You know what a footballer life is. It's not a new sport. It's not a new profession. We've set the goals. We'll reevaluate them. And that's really important. We reevaluate them at a later point. Normally within 3-4 weeks, we go back and reevaluate them, see how far they are, see if we need to readjust, if we've got injured or something's happened in the meantime. But goal setting is fundamental within my practice. Set them goals, give them targets. Once they've met it, you almost see a different person because they've achieved something. It's a sense of achievement they have. Right, I now feel that I've done this, this and this. A few coaches mention it to them. Brilliant. Confidence is boosted. We then look at, what's your next goal? What do we next need to work towards? All of a sudden, this player is building up as a person. And it just, even if they're small things, they've achieved something at the end of their training session. They've achieved something within the match. 10 more passes than they would have done. They come away pride. There's a sense of that pride, that sense of achievement that goal setting actually is there for, and it works so well with the athletes if how can I put it, educated correctly. It's very easy to go in with a piece of paper and set smart goals. If you run the session correctly and the player understands it, there is that sense of achievement and autonomy over themselves that goal setting is so powerful for.
It's interesting because I think a lot of the time football and sport in general can be solely outcome orientated. So
Yeah.
you win, lose or draw, that's it. That's, with that come different feelings, but that's all that matters, looking at that league table and looking at the last result. But with goals, I guess firstly it kind of forms a sense of structure for the athlete, but also,
Yes.
It's working towards something, the process orientated kind of view and working towards something and the little steps along the way. So let's try and make 20 passes in a game, but within that almost mini goals that kind of play into that. And I think that's probably what's important, because instead of going right, go and have a good game, go and score a goal, well, if you're just kind of putting them down that alley then and they don't do it and don't perform that, then it's kind of, well, I failed. And instead it's making it more process orientated and kind of giving them a clear path and go, right, to do that today we've got to do this, this and this. And then, like you said, they feel more in control, they have more autonomy, and therefore kind of feel accountable for their performance, instead of it being, well, you didn't score a goal today, therefore it was a bad game. I think you've got to look beyond that. So it's really interesting to hear how you actually bring that into your work.
Quite interesting point there. So if I link it into the Youth Cup, we lost on penalties, you know that. But actually, our boys were so proud of themselves. They came away probably celebrating more than you. They came in the next day completely buzzing. And it's because they achieved their goal. They held for 90 minutes. They went into extra time. They came back from behind twice, and one quite substantially, 2 goals down very quickly. They came back from behind twice. The pride the players had in themselves, because their goal was, right, let's not get flattened in 90 minutes. They didn't. They actually made it to extra time. They actually made it to penalties. Only team, and the coaches couldn't completely understand it. They came in buzzing the next day because they said, well, do you know what? We didn't even think that was going to happen. Look at our performance. Look how well we done. And the goal was, we done a session beforehand, and the goal was, go at them. Doesn't matter about category number. It's 11v11 for 90 minutes. Don't worry about anything else. Same age, same amount of players. They've not got extra players. Train them at the same time as you. Where's the difference here? It's a different badge. So our goal was, don't look at the badge. The badge is not there. It's a blanket. It's a friendly game. Off you go. And it's amazing. And you're right. What goal setting can do, that it changes that mindset. They came in buzzing the next day.
That's so interesting, because like almost celebrated more than just for the viewers. So I'm currently working at West Ham as a performance analyst, and Kayleigh does some work with Luton. So they played in the FA Youth Cup, and West Ham won on penalties. But just saying there that Luton almost felt they'd have achieved something more, because they probably stuck to their game plan. They all felt like they earned it as a team, and I think that's so important, because what's that going to do for their morale and the morale within the camp? They look around each other and went, you fought for 120 minutes tonight and in penalties, and every single one of us tried our best, and that's more valuable than the end result, because yes, our boys come in buzzing, but not with the togetherness that maybe the Luton boys were, and it's just really interesting to hear.
Oh, they were, honestly, it was party. Yes, they were gutted. They would love to have gone further, but all of them went. It was a brilliant match, wasn't it? I saw I can't remember who it was. I saw the second years, I think it was, the very next week. Oh yeah, did you see this? And no, it was the first year, sorry. It was the first years. And completely dissecting the game, and not what I expected at all. And even I didn't expect it. The whole demeanour of, twice we came back. Didn't expect to get to penalties, wasn't it good? And analysing the game, and did you see this element? Did you see that? And we had the backs up at this point. And as you said, it was completely, the togetherness of the team was unbelievable. Not anything I even expected. It went beyond my expectations.
So moving on, let's talk about attributions. So do you think it's more effective for a coach to attribute failure to external factors, so the referee, the pitch, something out of their control, deflecting responsibility, or if a coach was to hold his hands up and go, we weren't good enough today, I got my substitutions wrong, I got my tactics wrong, and almost call out the team, if they were to lose the game? What do you think is more valuable?
Strangely enough, I ran a session yesterday with our 21s on controlling the controllables. You cannot control the referee. You cannot control the weather conditions. You cannot control the pitch. You cannot control all of these factors. You cannot control VAR. Some of them are trying to take on the world with VAR. It's here. Whether we like it or not, whether we agree with it or not, it's there. My aim in my practice, and what a lot of the players have started to do, is take accountability. If you make a mistake, yep, made a mistake, I'm sorry. Because that team cohesion comes into play, where if a player admits the fact that actually, sorry, my mistake, they're able to move on a lot quicker and adapt a lot quicker than the player that gets frustrated and, oh, it was the referee, it was this, that and the other, blaming these external factors. I'm very much in the factor of you can control the controllables, you can control yourself, your performance, your ability in training. People are messing about in training, you still are there. Get the best out of what you can do. I know with the 21s it's very different because some go to first team, leaving them with very few numbers. You must have the same situation. 23, some go to first team, leaving you with very few. Well, actually, you're still at training. You're still there. That's an external factor we cannot control. What is within your control? What is there? How can we adapt and develop you? What is your goal for this session? Don't worry about everyone else. Referee, you'll never be able to control. The more you have a go at him, the more he's going to go against you. And I've said that to many players. If you think he's wrong, okay, nod and walk away. As soon as you argue, you're marked. Leave that to the coaches if they want to defend you in that way. Not your job. Control what's within your control. Don't worry about the external factors. And I have put that a lot into the coaches. The coaches were in on the session. So we had the 21s coach in the session and the 18s when I ran it for them. And it's about those external factors are not within your control. They might be within the coach's control. Let them deal with it. That's their job. Your 90 minutes are on the pitch. Play football. Regardless of the weather, regardless of who the referee is, because you see a lot of them, I don't know if you have it, where they'll go, so-and-so's the referee, and the heads drop. And you go, well, can't control him. If you play a better game of football, he's not going to disallow goals. He's not going to take goals off you that are legitimate. You can't do that. You can't stop the match when there's nothing going wrong. Just play the 90 minutes, play the game. Almost go against him because you're playing the game. You can't pull you back. Control the controllables and control yourself, your performance. Therefore, the team's performance increases.
I think that just reiterates what we touched on just then about have ownership. You know, if you go out there and you are in control of your own performance and you're managing that and not trying to waste energy on the uncontrollables, then you're in control. Because if you're focused and you know what job you've got to do and not letting anything else cloud that, then you're as focused as you can be. You know, you're worrying about what matters ultimately, and that's your performance. And yes, you're one of 11 within the team, so you're 1/11th of the team performance. But if you're in control and don't worry about them, the referee, or the head drop when you get the team sheet in, or he's playing it, don't worry about that. They're going to be out there with you running around the same pitch, so worry about your own performance, and that's all that matters. So it's really interesting. So just to finish, really, just some shorter questions from a couple of subscribers on the YouTube channel. So I kind of touched on it already, you know, touching into mental health. Due to social media, do football players have more pressure at a younger age?
Absolutely. They all have Twitter pages. They all have Facebook pages. And trust me, they read the club pages. Anything that's said about them is there. They read them. It's thrown into their faces almost because they're so used to scrolling that it'll be there. Players, as we said previously, the ones that are coming from academy into firsts, the names are mentioned. Oh, we've got an academy. Oh, the academy's looking bright. This, that, and the increase in pressure of that is unbelievable. And also players are now more approachable in that way. You can send a tweet to any player. Whether they read it or not, we don't know. But you've actually personally messaged that person onto their own personal Twitter page. You're that much. Players are leaving themselves to be that much more contactable, more open.
Almost more vulnerable.
Yes, that's the word I'm looking for. Absolutely. It's vulnerability. You've left yourself there, and the mental health aspects of that. I know we've run workshops on how to prevent it, how to block it, how to look beyond it. But if someone week in, week out is getting abuse, it's very, very hard to block. It comes through on our phones now. We don't have that break. I've got a smartwatch. It flashes up when I get a tweet. We're so connected in this world, and it's for everyone. And it's not just athletes. As people, if we strip them down to people, they're so much more vulnerable with the amount of social media and with the amount of they can be contactable. And the names of broadcasters, as I said, academy boys that go into, oh, we've got a great new feature, look at our academy boys. The names are mentioned, they're there. We've had 2 go up into the first team. And I've gone, if you've seen the Facebook page, your name's mentioned on the first team Facebook page now. It was mentioned in a tweet that you were sitting on the bench as academy boys, and obviously fans, the future looks bright. But are they really prepared for that first game back that has fans, and they might not be as complimentary anymore? It's the world of social media, the world of the pressure that it puts on players and athletes in general, and coaches, everyone. We're far too contactable, we're far too approachable, and we're far too vulnerable now.
I think I see a really, insightful answer in just how we are so connected, and you could argue we're almost more unconnected than ever, but so connected. But it'll flash up on their smart kind of sat nav in their car and on their watch and on their phone. So before they even got to work, they've seen it 3 times, and it's just relentless, isn't it? It's just almost relentless. The attention they have, good and bad. It works both ways, but I think it's so damaging for younger players, and it's really important they manage it in the best way possible, and not just get their agent involved, but to have the downtime where they switch it off and they say it doesn't bother them. Of course it does. If someone's calling you a nasty name on Twitter, you're gonna take it on board in some capacity, block it out, some better than others. But really
when
interesting.
You say that though, you're saying about switch it off. This generation don't know how to do that. We might be slightly better. I'm quite bad with social media. I will search through, just sit when I'm bored, start reading through. All of us do. We don't even realise we're doing it. It's very, very hard now to switch off. And it's everywhere. We turn on our laptops, it flashes up. We're so contactable, we're so vulnerable. And when you say switch off, these players actually, I don't think, know how to. Their phones are part of their hands that tell them to switch it off and take a break, or get another phone that's, a Nokia 3310 days that doesn't have the internet. They'll look at you like you're a complete alien from another planet, because it's a part of them. This is my connection. This is especially at the moment, and it's harder, the current pandemic, that they want to feel contactable. They want to have contact with people, and we're all like it. I'm very much like it. We're in tier 4. It's very, very hard. But we're leaving ourselves even more vulnerable to mental health because we're relying on that source that's there.
Yeah, we think it almost makes us more sociable, but it just works the other way ultimately. You can be more contacted by more people, but they don't know you. They're not your friends, a lot of the time. And that's the problem. It can seem, wow, I've got this many followers, and doesn't mean anything. They're strangers, they're absolute strangers. And
they think they know you as well. I'll say that. They think they know you. They don't know you.
Yeah, and that's the real difference. So kind of game specific, this one. So if a player steps up, takes a penalty and misses, but the keeper moved and someone encroached the box and it's got to be retaken, how much is that plan on their mind? Should they go the same way that they took the first penalty? Should they change their mind? And for a goalkeeper as well, what will come into a player's mind in that situation?
For an outfield player, one thing I've always said, if you take a penalty, you pick your direction, you stick to that direction, because your body has already moved into that way. Whether you realise it or not, your body weight's changed, your mind's changed, you've got that in your head. Don't run up and change direction. That's when you'll start to miss. And it's one thing I've always said. Whatever way you're going to go is where you're going to go. Penalties are an awful way to end a match. I don't like the way they end matches on penalties, so I don't think they're representative of the match. But for a goalkeeper, I'll say the same. You go in your head, watch, analyse their body language, and go the way you feel. And if you watch the player step up, you'll see, and if you watch their body language, and that's what I'm trying to train our goalkeepers to do, is to watch the players' body language. They're telling you what way they're going to go. Watch that and go that way. Follow your gut instinct. It's very, very hard with goalkeepers and penalties because they're the one between the sticks. Players setting up, I always say you go that way. Go the same way you're in your head, you've told yourself you're going to go. Visualise it. Have that visual imagery in your head of you taking that penalty. Probably something we should have worked on a bit better, but visualization is so important. When you're taking that step up as a player, visualize yourself which way you're going to go. Your body moves in that direction without you realizing it.
Yeah, there's almost a separate science to penalties. So that's really interesting. But just keep it simple, trust your gut, and visualize it going in. Be positive, I guess. Don't worry about the one you missed last time, because I've didn't play at a fantastic level, but was always kind of become almost a joke, really, because we're in a school game, we're in a semi-final, and I think the score was 2-0 at the time, and we get a penalty. And my PT said, you're having it, because I was up front, playing up front, and I'm probably a bit low on confidence. So I stepped up. The keeper spotted the ball for me and kind of on the spot, and then walked away, and I didn't touch the ball. So he was in control of the situation. I didn't take ownership of it. Stepped up, thinking about the one I missed or whatever, or worrying about everything else, blazed it 20 feet over the fence, went absolutely miles over the bar. And it was just like, from then on, it's like my last penalty after that. So we're in a cup final, and I was stepping up to take the winning penalty, and I was like, I'm going to score. I'm going to score. I know what way I'm going right. It's going in. We're going to win. It was, there was no pressure and it's just that visualization, that self-talk, and going, if you're positive, don't let anything else come into it. If the goalkeeper spots the ball, move it. Take ownership of that situation. Take a confident run up. Don't change your mind. And I think simple is the key when it comes to penalties. Yeah. So really interesting.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
So got kind of 2 in 1 now, just to finish off. So how easy or difficult is it to find jobs even when you are qualified in the industry?
So when I first started, I'm not going to lie, very, very hard. As we said at the beginning, it's a fairly new science, and hang on a minute, football's played with the feet, sport's played with parts of the body. What's this got to do with anything to do with sport? Unless if we open it up to all sports, how does this work in relation to their fitness? They know what to do, and they almost look at you going, how can you help? Nowadays, as we said earlier, so category 1 academies and 2 now need a sports psychologist. It's linked into 2s now as well, as far as I'm aware. That's what I've been told. That need at least a part-time sports psychologist. So jobs are opening up. There is more and more people tapping into the world. It was very much an American-based thing that's come over here. And yes, it's taken its time to drip over here almost. But as more and more teams are relying on sports psychologists, as we're becoming more in the news as well, all of a sudden, and I know we've mentioned social media, and this is a positive impact of actually players are coming out going, I spoke to a sports psychologist. And there's more and more that have said, I spoke to a performance psychologist and this is what we spoke about. Yep, I took a dip, but after this conversation, I worked out this was my plan. More players, more athletes coming out speaking about it creates more jobs, creates more awareness of us and our presence. But mental health being so delicate and now taking the forefront of a person and as a player or as an athlete, the job opportunities are now appearing thick and fast. I will say that. They are coming through. As I said, when I first qualified, it was needle in a haystack. By the next generation coming up, there'll be jobs in every single team. And I would say even grassroots would have an appointed mental health advisor as well.
So there you go, just showing the journey that it's gone on as an aspect of sport. And I think that's really encouraging. I've got friends that are studying the same course as me at university, and I think that's really positive that the recognition's getting there. If top athletes are coming out and saying how important sports psychology is, you've got people like Johnny Wilkinson, really eloquent in the way he talks, and it's amazing because when he bought into it and he wishes he'd had it earlier in his career and playing without fear and showing that if you have a relationship with a sports psychologist and coaches are adopting sports psychology, it's getting the recognition it deserves and therefore more accessibility to the new generation coming through, which is really exciting. So then really just to end with, how important is networking? I mean, if I could just add something quickly, massive, because we got in contact with each other through LinkedIn, you know, a great platform to kind of to meet new people and network with people in similar interests or industries as you. And I put a post out saying, you know, anyone who'd like to collaborate, please message me. And, you know, you reached out, and it just shows you that networking's massive, you know, meeting new people, starting conversations and kind of crossing over into different industries. So how important is networking for you?
Massive. I presented at the Basie Student Conference, the Basie National Conference. The amount of connections I made there of people saying, would you come, especially playing on this, but female. We don't see many females coming into the male-dominated world. Could you come in and speak to our students, promote females within sport? Absolutely. I went into many different universities. I've given lectures on sports psychologies in many different universities, but also job opportunities. So I've made connections up in Scotland just from being at a conference at the same time, that I know if I pick up the phone now, he will answer, he will help me out as much as he can. I'm in England, he's in Scotland. Absolutely, this is what we do. Do you need any more help? But also sport, what people don't realise, this is a very, very small world. Football is even smaller. I don't know if you've ever been to other clubs. You mentioned you've been there. Oh, so your coach was so-and-so. Oh, so you know so, and the connections, that's where you make your connections. That's where you build your reputation. That's where you establish yourself. And it is so important that you have that and have that grounding. You're able to pull upon people to help you as well, and you help them just as much. But networking for me has been pivotal and so important. I wouldn't have got the roles that I have without going to these events, turning up, smiling, presenting, speaking to people, taking their business card, adding them on LinkedIn, sending them a follow-up message. It's amazing what doors open as soon as you show people that respect and follow through also with what you're saying. So yes, I will connect with you. Go and do it. It's the only advice I do, because doors open and they will help you. People inside will help you because they know how hard it is to get inside.
And I think, you know, it kind of says it all there. If you're professional and you're honest with yourself, and you know you make an effort, and you kind of share the common goal in terms of, you know, how hard it is to get into the industry, and you know how hard each other have worked. So it's when you get your kind of, you know, your moment of opportunity, your window of opportunity, taking it and being yourself, but being professional, and just making sure that you come across the best way you can be. And I guess that's the golden rule. But thank you very much. I just want to say thank you again to Kayleigh for being on the channel. Some really interesting points there, some interesting aspects and thoughts towards sports psychology and her journey, the work she does, especially in COVID at the moment. But, you know, really just a deep dive into what goes on in an athlete's head. You know, I'm sure we'll speak again on LinkedIn, I'm sure. And hopefully we can do some more work if that's something you'd like in the future
absolutely.
to see on the channel as well. I think it's been really valuable today for me, and just nice to get a voice from the industry, you know, and seeing her journey. So thank you again. And thanks for watching, everyone.
Been crying so much to the poltergeist, trying to hold on to love, but it's frosted.